Day 10 was Friday, September 9th, Cuba to Carthage, and our plan was to do 189 miles. First stop was at the Fanning Outpost with a giant rocking chair, but it was closed and out of business. Big surprise to us, had been for about 2 weeks now. Just one more of the Route 66 establishments that are going TU. Not much you can do about it. It is what it is. So we stopped and we all took our picture in front of the big rocking chair so that we had a memory picture to take home with us. And once we'd done that, then we started to head out of that area and move on to Dillon, to the Mule Trading Post. Interesting note though about Fanning, at the Fanning Trade Post there, you noticed when we first pulled in there was a couple of cats. Well, it wasn't just a couple of cats. There was a dozen feral cats that were pretty friendly. They wouldn't let you get right up to them, but they were friendly enough that obviously humans had been feeding them and they were comfortable coming around, but no one was really looking after them. I think they were on their own. And the next stop was the Mule Trading Post. It's been around for 50 years under 3 different ownerships, I believe 60 years, 66 years, something like that, under different ownerships. And they had just about everything you could think of. They had swords and martial arts stuff, and they had furniture and hats, ornaments, you name it. It had a little bit of everything for everybody. And the telltale sign for me is that when we go to one of these places, or when we were at one of these places, if we stayed for more than 30 minutes, the message I got is that everybody enjoyed themselves. Jim bought himself a enameled sign there, got a deal on it, and everybody else, I think, picked up a little something. And I wouldn't hesitate to stop again if I was going by. Our next stop on the route was going to the Totem Pole Trading Post. That's an interesting place. It was actually sold about a year ago, but then the deal fell through. It was to a car customizer locally. And the guy has a couple of sons, but neither one of them are interested in taking over the business. So when the deal that he just had fell through, he decided, well, that's it, I'll shut down the restaurant. And he didn't want to carry on with the gas tanks and gas pumps because the franchise costs were too high for him. So he said, I'm not going to take the hit on it. I'll do without the stuff. And so he just keeps the trading post portion open and the historical museum-ish kind of stuff available. But he was a nice guy, very friendly to us, let us snoop around and take a bunch of pictures. I took lots of pictures and put them in the smile box that's up on the website as well. If you want to take a look at the inside and whatnot, then that's the place to go. There's Kevin and Judy giving us the wave into the finish line flags. Trust Kevy. And we didn't stay long, and then we headed out of there. And the next place that we were heading to after the Totem Pole was Devil's Elbow Bridge and the Devil's Elbow Inn and Devil's Elbow River. And there's some interesting history around that, but the most important thing I think is that on the way there's a part of the highway that we join up with that was a replacement built in 1941, and it replaced the old, this one here, this is the one that's showing on the screen right now. It replaced the old one, which wound back and forth and went through Devil's Corner on this what they call Devil's Elbow area of the river. And the reason they called it that was it was such a sharp turn in the river that all of the goods going up and down the river, all of the lumbering that was being done up and down the river. Oh, off to the right here, this is Hooker Cut. I'll talk more about that in a second. Anyways, but all of the stuff that was at going down the river, and the commerce all around here depended upon the traffic up and down the river. It caused no end of problems, so they called it Devil's Elbow. The Hooker's Cut just back there, that's a 90-foot high wall, and it was the first and highest full cut of that size in Missouri ever. And that was done in 1941, and it was done so that they could make this road straight instead of curved, so that they could take goods to the fort. There was a army fort not far from here for purposes of war and dispatchment and whatnot, and they wanted to be able to move stuff quicker because this road was really bad. The old Route 66 with the 1923 year label on it, circa 1923 or 21, was really not a very good road. As you can see, we're traveling down the original road right now, and there's a lot of potholes and whatnot. As we travel down this, it'll come to the Devil's Elbow Inn, and then right on the other side of the building itself is the Devil's Elbow Bridge. But what's more important is that Munger Moss Motel and store, sandwich store, was actually located here at one time. And back when the cut that we talked about, the Hooker Cut, got built and the 4-lane divided highway got put in place in 1941, then Munger Moss moved out of this area, and the people that have got the inn now turned it into a bar with hot sandwiches. And they seem to be doing a decent business, not a great business. Inside, it's got nothing but bras and money hanging off of the ceiling. Really quite an eclectic collection of names and countries from all over the world and money types. Really interesting. The bridge, you can see Judy's just taking a walk up the bridge here. This bridge, we actually stop on it as we're going across so Ingrid can take pictures on both sides. But what's more interesting than the bridge is just on the other side of it, on the left-hand side, is the community of Devil's Elbow. And that community basically flourished on the trade that was going up and down the river. My understanding is that there is only 5 or 6 streets in that whole community and 2 entrances. And as we pass by, I'll point them out to you, and you can see a couple of the houses there. They don't look like they're doing all that bad. So there's obviously still a little bit of business in the area. And there's a car that actually comes down the road the other way, and it turns right, your left, into the neighborhood of Devil's Elbow. And it's interesting as you go past these 2 roads that go in there, and then there's, I think, some roads going off to the right and to the left, and then one further in, and that's all there is. And then there's the river again. Here comes that car I was talking about, and it'll turn its right into the neighborhood, and we just come up past it and whatnot. And you'll see there isn't a lot there. It's not very much at all. And this road that we're on is the original Route 66, but it's been repaved a couple of times. Even though it's in pretty crappy condition right now, it's still better than it was. But you see the houses there on the left, one with a garage and whatnot, and it's not too bad. And there's a couple of houses up on the right-hand side here. Just beyond this is a abutment on the left-hand side where you can actually stand up and look down at Devil's Elbow and the train trestle that goes right across the river itself. And here's the final leg of the 4-lane divided highway, turning back into a 2-lane undivided highway. And this is en route going to Uranus. Don't laugh too hard. It's a place. It's a touristy place. It's a touristy trap. We didn't really get out and do anything at it. I think it was interesting to note too, when you're looking at the highway off to the right-hand side, that's the interstate highway, which replaced Route 66. And some of our travels along Route 66, we'd hardly meet another car. As you've seen, we've gone from Devil's Elbow all the way to this community here, and there's nothing. And we traveled for 15 minutes, and you don't pass another car. There's just nothing else going the other way. I'm surprised there was that guy walking down at Hooker Cut. Here we are getting into the main stream again. It's a good rendition of what Route 66 is like. Most of Route 66 was like this. 80% of it, well, maybe not 80, 70%. Another 20% was like the roads that we were going into Devil's Elbow, and another 10% were worse than that, or dead ends on paved road where you got that clickety clack from the sections because it was all made out of cement. And here we are at Uranus. It's got tattoo parlor, it's got a little grocery area, it's got a bit of a museum on the far end, it's got some eateries and whatnot. But if you look at the parking lot when we drive through, there isn't hardly any cars there, and we're at midday, so it's a little telltale sign that it's just something that's been put in place on Route 66 hoping that they can make some money off of it. But there wasn't really a historical reason for them to be there, and so they're not attracting the people. In fact, when we exit, if you look to the what looks like a fort lookout on the left-hand side, not that water tower ahead of us, but there's a fort lookout on the corner. What's in there is a couple of dummies with costumes on. One looks like Darth Vader, and the other one is one of those white uniforms from the Star Wars movies. Well, I don't know what that's got to do with the car theme and whatnot that they have in this shopping center. It just doesn't make sense. But to each his own, I guess. Marlon and I just sort of talked from the cars and decided, well, we're just going to carry on. There wasn't really much that looked like it was interesting or we wanted to go in and take a look at. And the next place that we're going to stop at is just a sweep. We're just going to sweep through. It's in Lebanon, and it's Munger Moss Motel, and that's the motel I talked about earlier at Devil's Elbow that got uprooted and moved. And it was moved into Lebanon, and so it's got a 70-year history in the area. Here it is on the right-hand side. That's quite a court, quite a motel court. And Ingrid and I, if we come back down again this way, we're going to book a room and stay here. They're all done on themes, all car themes, route themes, period themes, you know, John Wayne stuff, and Errol Flynn, I guess, I don't know, whatever. And some of the Route 66 icon stuff. So we finished there, and when we finished there, we went to a place called Tubby's Diner. There it is on the right. And Tubby's Diner was actually a good meal, and the guy was really interesting as well. It was one of those must stops, but I think we could have missed it. And then we stopped at this place, and it was called Don's Garage. And this guy owns an upholstery shop at the back or something, and this is not really a roadside attraction. It's just his garage, and he's got stuff in it like you wouldn't believe. Like old cars and antiques from the 40s, 50s, well, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, collectibles from movies, car items, anything to do with gambling. He's got gambling machines. The guy travels to New York to go to swap meets to buy stuff to bring back. He's got standees for various people and movies and whatnot, and politicians throughout the eras. I mean, this guy's got one eclectic gathering of product, and I'm telling you, if I had a big wagon behind me, I'd love to have bought a bunch of it off of him. And he does sell some, but not very much. These guys are mostly weird. They keep the stuff to themselves. No sharing. Anyways, that's about it. That's the end of day 10, September 9th. And you can tune in for day 11 if you want.